We're digging deep into Steam's Next Fest with As We Descend, Tinkerlands, and Permafrost. Sony has announced the release date for the launch of Spider-Man 2 on PC. Netflix closes its studio, Codename Blue, before they ever put out a game. 343 Studios is now Halo Studios, and it looks like combat is being evolved again, but this time in Unreal Engine 5. And then we wrap things up with DayZ Frostline.
Hi, I'm Nick, and this beard is not an asset threat.
Hi, I'm Josh, and is Spider-Man invited to the cookout?
And I'm Andy. This is Video Game Tango.
Good evening.
Welcome back, everybody.
Hello.
How we all doing?
Josh, say words.
Words!
It's been a while.
I love that the first sound that happened on our podcast was pop, 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 pop.
Who was that?
Josh getting his grinder fucking notifications.
Yep.
I'm gonna break that shit down like the fucking Republican National Convention. What?
What? Political joke. Yeah,
Sorry.
if you're listening to this podcast for your history class, we made mistakes.
Yes. So we're not going to talk about history. That's just not a thing that's happening. Instead, we're going to talk about video games. Regular video game news plus Steam Next Fest just happened.
Yeah.
Just ended earlier in the week. So we've got some demos under our belt, and we would like to share those with you. I think, Nick, why don't you start us off?
Okay, so I have a sporadically large amount of free time, and I was able to try roughly 20 demos, if I had to guesstimate, this Next Fest. Overall, it was comparable to previous Next Fest. There's some games that are really obviously, okay, this is going to be great. Handful of games that were, this is good, but I didn't like this. But a surprising amount of games that I don't think would necessarily be bad, but they were not ready for demos. One game that stood out above all the rest for me was As We Descend. And I was pleasantly surprised, but also not surprised to see it was published by Coffee Stain Publishing. Right up there with Hooded Horse and Kit Fox Games is one of my favorite publisher. Coffee Stain, you're going to know them from Deep Rock Galactic, Valheim, Satisfactory, Goat Simulator. And this game, As We Descend, hit all the right buttons and levers for me. So what is this game? The boilerplate is this is a roguelike game with the soul of a strategy game. Recruit and upgrade your forces, deploy them to counter monstrous foes in card-slinging battles, play your cards carefully in the treacherous city against all odds while you bear the torch of humanity. Very vague, doesn't explain the game super well. But what this game basically is a two-phase game. You are in this giant kind of aether punk, diesel punk city that is descending into the bowels of the earth, a layer at a time. And it keeps running into forces that are like if the enemies from Evangelion were made by H.P. Lovecraft. And as you descend, these forces are assaulting you very much like Attack on Titan, and you have to muster out what meager forces you have to stop them. But that is not how the first phase of the game plays out, because you are essentially you've been elected to be this important political champion for the city in a role that no one really likes. And you play this little mini card game where you have essentially influence over the city, and you're trying to get things done by playing out cards like emissaries and scouts to do kind of politicking in the city to make the combat easier in the next phase of the game, which is actually the meat of it. What I liked about this game is I played it through full twice and then another half amount. And I faced different bosses, both mini bosses and final bosses each time. And every time I played it, every single choice was the perfect amount of agonizing. Is this going to be a move that I can risk trying to pull off? Is this move too safe and is going to cost me in the future? And I really felt that fun style of hard choice where if I'm not thinking both about the near term and the far term, I'm going to be shooting myself in the foot either now or later. The combat is interesting. It's turn-based. You technically use cards, but I wouldn't call it a deck builder. You have a bunch of base cards you get, and then the units you bring in to combat have their own little card pack. So you have like frontliners or support or ranged units. They're all flavored amazingly well. One of my favorite was a Lancer unit. but it's like in a full exosuit with a diesel punk lance, and instead of a horse, they have a jetpack. So their whole deal was like trying to get to the back lines to build up speed, and then charging forward and being very vulnerable, and then trying to get them back into safety. It has a bit of XCOM vibes in that your units like need to heal over time. So if you're constantly using your best unit to like survive the waves of alien assault, they're going to die, and the death is permanent of your units. So you want to try to keep them alive. And yeah, lots of really interesting choices. Those things where you're like, oh, I really want that upgrade, but I really need to take this. Stuff like, do you want 2 resources now, or do you want to have a 70% gamble on getting 5 resources in the next round? You know, and I loved how quickly, even in this demo, it shows that they have found that fun level of balance before the game's even out. You know, and like I said, being able to play through it fully twice, plus a little bit extra in a third run, and see new content. I think I got a good 8 hours in the game in the demo alone, and it was fantastic. It was definitely the hands down winner for me as a fan of games that make you really have to make hard choices and think about what you're doing. Plus the art style and the general vibe and aesthetic is off the charts. All the 2D art and the conversations and the politicking phase of the game is absolutely gorgeous. Cinematic trailer is great. Gives you a vibe of kind of what the gameplay's like. Yeah, and you're not expected. This isn't like superhero champions. Like, you're lucky if you're going to make it to the end, and you're just trying to constantly keep afloat. It's very kind of Darkest Dungeon in that vibe, right? But yeah, definitely my hands down favorite demo of the Steam Fest.
Coffee Stain just seems to be fucking on one, dude. Like the
publisher to constantly be making the right decisions.
Yeah, like publishing amazing games, and then as a first party developer, even just making great stuff. So, is this is being developed also by Coffee Stain?
No, this is Box Dragon. I believe it's at least their first game on Steam. It does not currently have a release date. If you follow any of their other games by Coffee Stain, Valheim, Satisfactory, Deep Rock Galactic, Goat Simulator, plus the other smattering games, they recently, on October 8th, had something called The Spill. If you look up The Spill on YouTube, Coffee Stain, it's basically devs from every one of the publisher's games, as well as reps from Coffee Stain, having like a 4-hour-long sit-down chat just about the future of Coffee Stain and all their games. Highly recommend it if you want to throw it on a second monitor. But yeah, that's As We Descend, and yeah, really like that one.
Yeah,
Right
that looked really cool. Honestly, that trailer deserves to have the Madonna treatment to it. You know, the chorus song from like Deadpool. Like,
yeah.
dude, that would slap hard for that.
Yeah.
Right on, man.
Now let's go right from slapping right into swinging. It's finally happening, guys. Now, we knew it was happening.
Swing's coming back.
We knew it was happening for a while, but now we know officially when it's happening. Ooh. January 30th in the year of our Lord 2025, it will release. Now, guys, this game picks up right at the end of Spider-Man Morales.
You didn't tell us what
Miles
game you're
Morales.
talking about.
Sorry, it's
yeah.
Well, I mean, I dropped a lot of hints. Swinging. I mean, come on, you know. So yes, we are of course talking about the Friendly Neighborhood Spider-Man 2. It released to much fanfare last 2024. At the end of 2024, it looks like so much fun. It along with Ragnarok were the games I was considering buying a PS5 to play.
Yeah.
I cannot believe it was such a short wait to get it. Like, honestly, I'm gonna give PlayStation a little round of applause here for getting that.
They get
out
one.
To me. They get one, just a little one little golf clap.
Applaud.
Now, so we do know its release date. We unfortunately do not have any system requirement releases yet. Now, I imagine it's going to be something similar to what Ragnarok was. So if you're able to play Ragnarok, you should be able to play this. So I am excited for it, guys. More than likely, it's gonna come with you have to have a PSN. That seems to be that's. I mean, I guess if that is
fun about it,
if that is the trade-off that I'm getting to get the PlayStation games on my PC, it seems fair, because if I bought a PlayStation, I'd have to get the PSN anyway.
If you want to get middle ground and you don't want your information, like, just make a new email account that you use for PSN.
Sure.
Right? Just do that.
That seems exactly. Now, where it sticks in my craw just a little bit is where there's countries where you just like making a PSN account isn't even a fucking option. And so that sticks in my craw a little bit, because gamers who are excited about games aren't getting games, and that sucks. But this particular gamer is getting this game, and he's excited.
He's a lucky American.
he's excited. So yeah, it's the port, I guess that's the correct word. The port is coming from Nixies. So they've done the last couple. So they are excited to again have been working with Marvel Games and Sony, and it's just gonna. I'm excited for it, guys. So first one was great. Can't wait to play the next one.
Yeah, and they've made good ports so far. Like, there's been minimal problems with the PC ports of these games, which is good considering that we are, with Miles Morales. That Miles Morales, if I remember correctly, was on the PS4 and the PS5. I think this is the first Spider-Man game that's like PS5 exclusive, if I remember correctly.
Yeah, that seems about correct.
I could see this having some pretty high system requirements, like one of which is probably that you must have an SSD, which is becoming a pretty consistent requirement nowadays. There are a lot of games coming out that require an SSD. World of Warcraft recommended an SSD. Like, you will not have a pleasant experience without one kind of scenario. You can install the game on something that's like a mechanical hard drive, but they like system requirements are coming with like data transfer speed requirements as far as like they're recommended. So I wouldn't be surprised, being that the whole thing about PS5 is like it's got a stupid fast SSD. So it's probably going to be higher system requirements than the last two Spider-Man games, and arguably probably a little bit higher than Ragnarok.
You think?
Yeah,
Okay.
Probably. I mean, there was not a huge graphical leap from Morales to this game. So it's probably going to be relatively similar, but I wouldn't be surprised if there is a requirement for an SSD of like a minimum speed, being that like they really exploited that technology, like the super fast SSD, with this game. Right?
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah, like zero load times and that kind of thing. So yeah, I could see it having some system requirements that you're not maybe used to. Anyways, going back to Next Fest. Nick talked about a game that he loved and adored, the demo, even getting back into it multiple times, playing it for 8+ hours. I'm going to turn the tables a little bit here. I'm going to talk about a game called Permafrost. So Permafrost is a survival crafter. It's fairly standard fare in the survival crafter world. The big difference here, the selling point for this survival crafter, is it takes place in the cold. It's constantly cold. You're fighting the cold. As far as enemies in the game, the cold is enemy number one. Making sure that you don't die from frostbite or exposure is kind of the main thing. Maintaining body temperature is an entire mechanic. So that's essentially what it does differently than most of your other survival crafters. That said, I didn't have the most fun time. The game ran great. The system requirements are a little bit steep. They're not like officially published yet. That's still in the works because this is really early. For an early game, though, it did run well, all things considered. I do have a pretty beefy system. I've got a 5800X 3D and a 2080 Super with 32 gigs of RAM. So like I have a competent PC, right? It's nothing crazy, but it is in the still probably top 10-15%. So that said, I couldn't crank it all the way up to maximum. When I did, the frame loss was just a little bit too much. But still healthy, respectfully like high plus. So it for what it's worth, it did run well. It's kind of standard fare as far as survival crafters go. This does have a multiplayer, but only in co-op mode, which, you know, is fine. So you can play with up to 4 people. It is a cooperative mode, though, so there's not going to be any real PvP happening. But basically, you find yourself in the cold. You get saved by somebody. They get you next to a fire, get your body temp up. From there, she gives you some quests to teach you the basic mechanics of the game. I wouldn't call it a tutorial necessarily, because all of it can be skipped. In fact, like any of the quests in this demo can be skipped. And you can just go on to other content or explore the map. Cool. It has a pretty decent open world feel. Now, the demo is not huge. Like it's not an expansive map for the demo. You are pretty much given like a sliver of the total map for the demo. That being said, as far as the demo goes, I got like 2 hours out of it and didn't complete the thing. So I do want to say that I did not complete the demo. Okay. So just a little warning there. Again, graphically, it's pretty good. I mean, I think it's kind of standard fare for survival crafters these days to have pretty decent graphics.
Yeah.
It runs well, and those are effectively where my positives end, unfortunately. So there's nothing glaringly wrong. Well, I wouldn't say nothing. There's very little glaringly wrong with this game. It just doesn't do any
major hiccups.
Well, towards the end, I'll get to a couple big problems that I see, but they are absolutely fixable. This is, again, an early access demo, right? So these are things that can be fixed. However, the bones. So if you're familiar with the DayZ menu system, it's fairly similar as far as your inventory is concerned. You have a certain number of space given to you by your gear. Some pants have more slots than others. Some you can wear a backpack. You can increase your storage size with other clothing. There are trade-offs, though. Some of the clothing with more space is going to be less warm, so you won't be able to take the cold as well. All pieces of your gear have a temperature rating. So, like, if I actually have it up here in a video that we're playing, statistics for your clothing. So your hood is good up to minus 28 degrees. So is your jacket. So are your trousers. Your boots are only good up to minus 23 degrees C, and your gloves are only good up to minus 25 degrees C. So they do have temperature ratings. It gives you an average temperature rating. So my character at the beginning of the game can withstand up to minus 27 degrees Celsius. That's something that you do need to keep track of. There is a cold meter. That's the very top meter. There's a health meter. That's when that depletes, you die. And then there is a stamina meter that will replenish. It replenishes faster when you are more full. So when you've eaten food, it will replenish faster. There is a food meter as well. And then there's an exhaustion meter on top of that. So once you become exhausted, you pass out, you're likely going to die. If you run out of food, your health is going to slowly deplete. You're going to die. If you stay in the cold too long and your cold meter goes down too far, you start taking damage over time. If it's down to its last pip, you start taking damage really fast. Another pip, you start taking damage really slowly, and then so on and so forth. As far as the crafting elements go, it's really simple. Yeah, from what I experienced, I didn't actually need to make something like a workbench. Like, I can field craft a bow, no problem. I can field craft, the starting couple of axes, whether it be flint or the stone axe that I can create, or the stone hammer or whatever. So all that stuff seemed to be able to do in the field. There is a bench in the game, so I'm imagining there may be more complex crafting that can happen later on. I don't have any way, unfortunately, to confirm that from this demo. And from all of my reading, there isn't anything like publicly announced yet. So the crafting is really straightforward. You need a piece of wood. You don't have to even craft it into a stick or anything like that. You need a piece of wood and a piece of rope. You combine the two things, it turns into a bow. You turn a piece of 1 unit of wood into 3 arrows. You can now fire arrows from said bow. Everything does have like a breaking point, so you can only use it. It's got durability essentially.
Yeah.
That can be repaired in the workbench, so there is a reason for the workbench's existence. But that's so far the only thing that I can tell it exists for. You do have to regularly get warm in the game. That is a constant threat, is your cold meter. But I mean, this takes place in like a densely forested area, and all it takes is 3 pieces of wood to make a fire. I didn't need any kind of fire making equipment or anything like that.
Okay.
You can make it anywhere in the field, so like there isn't like a wetness meter or anything like that. So anywhere in this like really snowy area, you can just craft a fire. It happens instantly. It starts warming you instantly. That's in the basic area. There are other areas that are cold zones. And when you go in those cold zones, you have to have your clothing has to meet a threshold of like cold resistance. Otherwise you take damage.
Yeah.
And the damage happens to you quickly. You die within like a minute of being in a cold zone. I didn't find any way in the demo to combat the cold zones. There was no clothing available to me that would. So it's possible that there is something you may be able to craft, but I did find actual human traders. The traders didn't have anything that would offer me enough cold resistance to go in the cold zones, so I'm not sure that the cold zones were necessarily meant for the demo. You can spend some time in there, so I did go into the cold zones. I did have experience a little bit of what they have to offer. It does seem that the cold zones only offer you slightly higher tier loot, though, or maybe like military loot. There are guns in the game. From what I understand, there are up to 4 guns in the demo. I only managed to find 2, but I did find ammo for 4. Traders, really simple and straightforward. If you've ever dealt with like a survival crafter trading system, it's really not difficult.
It's a barter system.
100%, yeah. So it's a barter system like used in many RPGs, many survival crafters of the same family. There are like human settlements. Those are automatic warm areas. So if you find yourself like without wood for some reason and you can't find a tree, which I don't know why you wouldn't be able to, but you can run into like civilization and warm up. All of this sounds like absolutely straightforward fare, and it 100% is. So what I'm doing right here as we're watching this in the video version, I'll describe it for you, is I'm going to try out gun mechanics. I'm like, okay, I want to see how these guns work. I have used all of my ammo on that deer already for my 9mm pistol, and it did nothing to the deer. I had to switch to my rifle for it to then do damage. Being that rifle ammo in this demo was like really sparse, few and far between, I was like, okay, I'm going to go back to the bow, because if you hit a deer with a bow, it one-shots them, which gives you your next like 5 meals.
The bow one-shots them, but guns don't.
The rifle did, but the 9 shots that I put into it with my 9mm didn't do anything. In fact, it didn't even react. It wasn't until I was within 15 feet that it was like, oh, there's a guy there.
Yeah.
I assume that's a bug. I assume that's going to be fixed. But it is a complaint that I have with the demo. The gunplay is probably the weakest part of this. Well, I can't even say that it's the weakest part of it. I think it's the most broken part of it currently. So basically, you'll see it later in the video if you're watching the video. I have a fight with a wolf in which none of my bullets land or do anything. And these wolves, like, they 2-shot you. It takes about a second for them to kill you. So the shots weren't registering. In a game where you're going to have that kind of threat, these basic gun mechanics, like the game gives you a goddamn reticle that fills up when your shot's supposed to land on something. So if my reticle lights up, I should be able to shoot it. I wasn't able to. I emptied a full clip of rifle ammo at this wolf, and it did nothing, and the wolf murdered me. From there, I respawned at the nearest safe zone, which happened to be like 30 feet from where that wolf killed me. So the footage, I had footage that went further, but I stopped playing this demo because I would have to reset the game to get this wolf to de-aggro because he just camps your corpse.
Yeah.
I'm assuming that's a mechanic because you drop your backpack. If you have a backpack that you're wearing, you drop it if you're killed, so you have to retrieve it.
Yeah, makes sense.
Backpacks, of course, carry the bulk of your items. So yeah, that's another issue. So there were issues with the demo. On top of that, I just don't think that there is anything that this game is doing that is new. And I don't think it's even necessarily even more refined than others. This feels like baby's first survival crafter. It has zero personality whatsoever. It is go kill deer cause hungry, cook deer cause hungry, eat cause hungry, get warm cause cold, and that's essentially what the game boils down to.
Can I jump in here for a minute?
Yeah, please go ahead.
I think what you have experienced is a phrase that I don't like to use often, but unfortunately it's becoming more and more common. This is an asset bait game.
Yes.
And what I mean for that for the audience is that the ubiquity of high quality video game graphical assets has, especially in the last 2 to 3 years, allowed for a glut of games that are easily disguised as high quality looking games of substance, whose core gameplay loops are rote copy and pasted trivial stuff that is really just there to put together a product to try to make money. Now, I'm basing this off your description of the game and what I saw. It is becoming increasingly difficult to judge a game based off how it looks and plays in the initial half hour to hour.
Yes.
Because it's not hard to make a game like this where, especially in the survival crafting genre of games, where there's this expectation and understanding that you have all of these trope-like things you need to do to survive in these games. It isn't until you're an hour or two in that you realize, oh, they've put nothing in this game but the bare minimum you expect in a survival game. Okay, so I have to craft arrows, I have to make a house, I have to make a fire, I need to worry about temperature and all this stuff. But to what end?
Right.
There is no what end because they are just copying and pasting this standard formula that isn't the reason that people really enjoy survival crafting games. Like, while you were talking, I was watching this, I was thinking about The Long Dark.
Sure.
Which is, if you want a winter survival crafting game, the survival crafting part of that game is only $20. You can buy the full game, I think, for 30 or 40, but the story isn't finished. But it's got almost 100,000 very positive reviews because, yes, it is a survival crafting game in the winter, but the survival part is not a means to an end of itself, right? It is there to support the game, which is what these games miss.
Right.
Like this asset bait stuff is very popular in shooters and fantasy games where the game looks great and you play it for like half an hour and then you realize it's all just flash and smoke.
Yeah.
And a lot of people, like, the reason this probably gets popular is because it looks like it should be a good game. And to the untrained eye, you play it and you think, oh, look at all this survival crafting stuff I have to do. But we have to remember, most people don't play games like we do. They don't play dozens of survival crafters or dozens of shooters or vampire survivors like to get a feel for what is a good roguelike, what is a good action adventure game. They just see, oh, it's so cool in this game that you have to worry about the individual temperature of each piece of your gear. It's like that's fluff, right? It's not serving a greater purpose. There's no narrative or plot that isn't just ham-fisted in. Like, I was watching you play, you're clearly in some kind of town, yet this game feels the need to make you go mine flint in a cave to make an axe.
Right.
It's like, where's the logic in that? They're putting this in the game because it feels like you need to have everyone start a survival game with stone tools.
Yep.
It's like, that makes sense in a like crashed desert island scenario, which is a game I'm about to talk about. But in a modern day realistic setting, like, I think of one of the best things The Forest did is you would constantly find like survival gear, a survival axe or like a survival bow. It's like, this is great. You find it, it's a fully made axe that is high quality steel because you live in a world where these things exist.
Totally.
You find telephones and beds and like the survival crafting part of that game was there. You could make stone axes and whatnot, but it was still a modern day facility, and you could find those things. And that's what I mean by serving a greater purpose.
Yeah.
You know, you don't just want to put elements into a game because other games do it.
Yeah, no, this very much feels like we need to make a survival crafter, so we have a series of checkboxes we have to check.
Exactly.
And all it manages to do is check the checkboxes. Some of those checkboxes are even broken in the demo, like basic shooting mechanics. So it feels like they've really failed on ticking the checkboxes, and there's even more to gripe about. I don't feel like throwing a wet towel on this game. It's whatever. Yeah. It's these developers' first game. This is let's see, Space Rocket Games' first game. Yeah. It is made from some developer veterans, from what I understand. They're not named, but that's how they describe Space Rocket Games. They're from Germany, so there is some really rough translation stuff in the game, as far as everything.
What's the game called again?
Permafrost. All of the voice line, or all of the voice lines, they're totally voiced in the game. So like anytime you talk to a character, all of your interactions are voiced. That's impressive. I think that's something to be applauded. That it takes a lot of effort, but it is in fairly broken English. The acting is really poor. That could all be forgiven if there was, like, honestly, all of it could be forgiven if there was a reason to play this game. Because right now it feels like a lot of the reason to play this game is to build a base. Well, then what takes you out of the base? Well, it's to make things a little bit easier to build the base.
Yeah.
There's nothing that drives you out of your base other than the basic need for food. So like getting a better gun makes food easier, but there's nothing else behind it like that. You're just playing this game to move on to the next best part of the game, or the next big mechanic. So it's got a lot of mechanics, but it's nothing that other games haven't already done, and most of them have done better.
I don't want to shit on it, but looking at it, their publisher, Toplitz Games, has a whole slew of games: Wild West Dynasty, Sengoku Dynasty, Medieval Dynasty, Lumberjacks Dynasty, Farmer Dynasty, where they're not asset flips, but they are asset bait in the sense that, like, there's definitely some effort that goes into these games, but they're just producing the bare bones of what you would assume a game of that genre would be. Yeah. Just an attempt to charge $20-$30. And like, some people will enjoy it. Yeah. They're not bad, but
it's really unfortunate because I like this kind of game. And I think the thought of permafrost and this ever looming threat, because it is always present. It's not like the forest where you have these occasional run-ins with the natives, right, that force you to do things and inspire you to be better.
I'm telling you, man,
it's
go
ever
play
looming.
Long Dark. Like, if you want a game like that, that's it.
I do like those kinds of games. So this one was on my radar immediately. It's like, oh, cool. I dig the cold mechanic. I think it's a really cool mechanic for survival games. All that said, I kind of want. I'm done ranting on this game. I don't. The thing about this game is that it made it to the number 3 spot in trending in upcoming games, reached a high of number 7 for most popular demos, and it is now in the top 20 most wishlisted demos from Steam Fest.
Yeah, which is what I mean by like fate. Like, people bite the line.
Yeah.
People don't know what they're getting into.
I just hope they're still not biting after playing this demo. It's not to say that this game couldn't be good, but it needs significantly more content. Yeah. Not just mechanics, not a little bit more gameplay. It has a serious lack of content, and it really needs it. So, I implore you to play the demo, despite all of my shitting on it, just so you can kind of understand where I'm coming from, and then play any other survival crafter. Like, most of them, I think all of them that I have ever played have been better. Yeah. Anyways, so let's move on to another demo from Steam Fest, eh? or from Next Fest.
Yeah, kind of in the opposite vibe. Necess, Core Keeper, Terraria. This is the other side of survival crafters, the non-realistic side. The how can we make a game, that's not focused around realism, but still have fun with that survival crafting aspect.
Totally.
I feel like this is kind of the opposite of asset based. So I played Tinkerlands, which is best described as probably 60, 70% Terraria, but top down, but with the feel of Necess. Basic, simple base building with NPCs and the like, done in a really well done package. But yeah, I played this demo. Wasn't expecting the demo goes through like 4 different bosses, a final boss, a secret boss. I sunk, I think, 5 or 6 hours into the demo just to complete it. And what I really liked about it, besides a lot of things, is that yes, it's a survival crafting game, but everything was smooth and fast. I never felt like I was stuck in one branch of weapon or category too long. The base building and NPC management was very simple. I didn't have to overtly grind for any real length of time for any particular resource just to waste my time.
Yeah.
The environments and the pixel art and the exploration was very well paced. I never really felt like I had to spend too much time in any one biome. And it has this feel that I've never been able to find a word for, where the pixel art combined with the descriptions of the items and the survival stuff is so just chunky. Like I loved finding a new item or a new flower or new plant or resource from a creature and the way it looked and the way it was used. And overall, just out of all the pixel art survival crafting based games, this one's just already out of the gate super well polished. And like I said, if you like any of these types of games, like Stardew Valley or, like I said, Terraria or Necess, this is up there. This is made by Hype Train Digital, published by Hype Train Digital, which I've come to trust. They did Quasimorph and Void Train and Stone Shard, Breath Edge, if you're familiar with it. Lots of solid games that are devoutly indie games. And yeah, just to be able to release like a good 5-6 hour demo with no bugs, no hitches.
Nice.
It was a very smooth experience. And again, the system requirements are next to zero for a game like this. But the game is definitely designed to play co-op. You can play single player. I didn't have a problem with that. But very much Necess or Terraria style, where you're going to find these bosses, I imagine be very helpful to have
for sure
more than one person.
Oh yeah,
because I'm having to tank and deal damage and do stuff. But yeah, there's a secret boss. I had to figure out like a little like puzzle and like place these things down based off their icons, and I summoned a giant worm, and it was cool. And yeah, just all around, it uses all the traditional tropies, survival crafting mechanics, but I've never played a game of this type where like I didn't have to go spend an hour grinding one resource to get to like the next level, like 20 minutes at most. And maybe that was part of the balancing for the demo. They might change that. But what they did say at the end of the demo is like, if you experienced the first island at this point, we would then send you to the next one, which has an entire new set of biomes and new bosses. Every weapon tier wasn't just bronze sword to iron sword. It was like, here's a sword. The next tier, you get a whip. The next tier, you get a laser gun. The next tier, you get, Kaiser claws. It was like literally different weapons with different animations, different hurt boxes, which again might just be the demo showing off their capacity. Sure. But what a brilliant thing to do in a demo to be like, here's an experience of what we have planned for the game. Yeah, it was solid. And I'm not overtly fond of games in the Terraria genre. I enjoy them.
Yeah.
But they're not my jam. So to play something like this and like, I'd go take a break and do my adulting and be like, man, I can't wait to get back and go to the next biome and see what's there. And that was a good feeling. It's a good feeling to have.
Yeah, that's the feeling that I got with Necess, and I'm kind of with you. It's like these aren't necessarily my favorite style of game, but I do love them intensely for like 1 to 2 weeks, where it's like it's all I'm thinking about while I'm at work, and I can't wait to get home, jump on with the guys, and play a few more hours. So. No, I'm glad. I'm glad it takes a formula that just like already exists and does its own thing with it, and good enough that it's like it stands on its own.
And given what I've experienced of it, like if you're coming at this from a Terraria, Stardew Valley, or especially other games of this ilk, a lot of those games you're like, oh man, I gotta sink my teeth in this game, and it's going to be hundreds of hours before I feel I've experienced it. I got the vibe from this game that it's like, we're going to pop out of the gate. This game's going to be like $15 to $25. You're going to sink an immersively fun 20 to 40 hours in it and be done with it.
I'm into it.
And it's like, not every game has to be 100 hours.
Yes.
And if I get 20 to 40 hours of a game I've spent $20 to $40 on, it's $1 an hour. It's pretty cheap, especially if it's a co-op game where it's like, not only do I get to experience the fun of the game, but any game that you're playing with a friend is automatically better than playing a single player game. So yeah, I don't feel like this game is going to overstay its welcome. I'm not expecting, like, Necess has heart, and it's clear the developers like wanting to make a lot of content for this game. But this just feels like a really solid summer blockbuster style survival crafter game. And I've played a lot of crashed on the island survive style games. We were just talking about yours. This is not a new genre. So to have one where it's like, yeah, we're not doing anything new, we're just doing what you expect was very refreshing.
I love it.
Plus, the art style is dope.
Yeah. No, it's
solid pixel work.
Good times.
Yeah.
Josh, you got one more for us?
I do got one more for us. So, guys, this is not about a happy beginning or a new thing coming. This is about something being shut down. So Netflix has been trying to elbow its way into the gaming sphere for a while. Now they have a few they have a few mobile focused titles on its service, and they're fine. It's fine.
Yeah.
You can play games on Netflix, and that's okay. But they wanted a real studio. They wanted a AAA title, and they're going to be
that Fortnite money.
Yeah, they want that Fortnite money. They want to be up there with the likes of Ubisoft and EA, disappointing fans out there, you know? So they had a AAA style studio, Codenamed Blue, that was going to make a AAA multi-platform game based on some original IP. Now, Netflix, if anybody has fucking IP to spare to make a game from, it's fucking Netflix.
Yeah.
There's a lot of things that they could make a game. But it closing down. Now, they got some fucking talented, some heavy hitters. They brought in Overwatch's executive producer, Chaco Sunny, Halo creative lead, Joseph Staten, The Coalition's Jerry Eadsall, Blizzard and Bungie's Gavin Irby, Santa Monica, Sony Santa Monica's art director, Rafael Grassetti. Sorry if I butchered any of your names. I tried my mediumist. And lots of other people, but it just goes to show that you cannot like make a fucking A team. I love it when a plan comes together and a game is made, and just shove your way in. But honestly, they're not even the first streaming studio or site or whatever that has had trouble with this. Amazon has done Medium.
That's one way to put it.
I'm being generous. They're our business daddy. Amazon has done Medium. They've stuck with New World. They've put like consistent updates into it.
I believe it's just World now.
New World Aeternum just came out, I think, like this week.
Yeah.
And Lost Ark had again
they found it
middling. No, other streamers like, HBO Max they just license out their stuff, and that worked for them, but even that is not, of course, 100% safe. We all know how Kill the Justice League killed Rocksteady. So like it's not even Disney, you know, they just had Star Wars Outlaws. I'm not
Don't
even gonna
say it directly into the microphone.
I can't.
You'll
I had to look away.
Where's my bleep?
Yeah, no, Star Wars. But you know,
Yeah.
anyway, so it just goes to show that even when you have more money than God, that you can't just elbow your way into a market that you have no experience with a brand new thing. Yeah. You know, so a valiant try, but it's not being a AAA studio for video games is not going to be in the cards anytime soon for Netflix.
So what exactly happened again? I don't know if you actually said it.
Oh, so their
aloud.
studio that they started,
Those Codename Blue or
those
whatever.
Codename Blue that didn't make any games, is now shutting down.
Yeah.
So, but they are still going to be in the gaming sphere, but just not producing anything on a AAA multi-platform, you know.
I mean, their entire deal was getting more people more reasons to have a Netflix subscription.
Yeah.
That was the entire deal.
yeah.
They already have games up. You can go ahead and play Shredder's Revenge on Netflix right now.
Yeah, and honestly, kind of just stick with that, right? Like that makes sense to me. Giving people reasons to get a Netflix account, that makes sense.
It's another corporate giant just throwing money at what
something
they think is a problem.
Mm-hmm.
You know, it's like, okay, sure. Like, I'm not sad that this thing shut down.
No,
you know,
hopefully no regular person's life is too affected by like being like, oh my God, I can't believe I got this crazy job. I'm on the ground level. And then they, 3 months later, they're.
No, yeah, I mean, like, while I'm not sad that Netflix lost its game studio, people lost their jobs and that's shitty.
And that's shitty, yeah.
Yeah, of course.
All too regular this year in the gaming industry, though.
I don't really like to try to auspex what the fuck happens at Netflix, because it seems like they have some divine machine that guides their hand where they create new IP out of thin air every other Tuesday.
Yeah.
And some of them get a season, and the viral culture support is, this is a great idea. We love this. And then the fucking divination machine determines that it didn't get quite enough views to meet some eldritch threshold, and they kill a show, right? Mm-hmm. How many one season shows are on Netflix? Mm-hmm. So to hear, oh, we're going to make a AAA game studio and then kill it before a game comes out, I'm not surprised. But I would still love to see what happened. Like, what made you think we're going to make a AAA game studio, and then they gave it like, what, a year? A year and a half? Like, it takes multiple years to make a AAA game unless you have thousands of employees like EA and Activision. And you don't have the charnel house that is EA or fucking, Blizzard Activision to churn out games at the pace they do. What did you expect to happen?
Yeah.
Like, we didn't see any info on any games they made. Are they just shooting stuff into the dark? Are they really are there higher ups in such a yes men, too many cooks in the kitchen state that they're just like, if we just keep doing lines of coke and throwing shit at the wall, something will eventually stick? Or did something real happen? Like, did they realize, oh, we have this whole plan, and then the game, like, it didn't vibe with testing? I don't know. We're never going to know, but I would love to know.
So this is all conjecture. I don't know for sure, obviously. I know nothing about what happened behind the scenes. But my guess, because this happens all too frequently, is big giant company has dickloads of money, isn't sure exactly what to do with said dickloads of money, but they aren't satisfied with just dickloads of money. They need 2 dickloads of money. In this case, they're like, video games makes dickloads of money. That's going to be our second dickload. Let's go ahead and start making video games. They start making video games, realize, shit, making video games, especially making profitable video games in the scope that we're looking for, is nearly impossible. Yes, we can spend $10 million on a show that gets 40 million eyeballs. That's a really good return. You don't get that with most video games. Most video games fail, and throwing money at something is not the answer.
I imagine you're right. Something like the money people are like, let's make video games, and then a year goes by and like, okay, where's our video game? And they're like, dude, we just started.
Right.
And they're like, what do you mean you started? You're fired.
Yeah, and they're like, we told you it was going to be like 6 years.
Yeah.
You want to make $1 billion game? It's going to take 8 years. So yeah, no, it's. I think there wasn't a fast enough return on it. They decided to kill it. Their money men
huge
did.
disparity between like reality and idealized intent.
Yeah.
Money people being like, oh yeah, we'll make a AAA game studio because we have Netflix money, and then realizing no, that's not how that works.
Video games always, with no alternative, 100% of the time, go over budget.
Yeah.
Almost 100% of the time go over their release date. Almost 100% of the time require a lot more people than we're initially going to need. Planning a video game and having it run smoothly is like an impossibility.
Yeah, you have to have very experienced people.
Yeah.
If John Carmack is not on your payroll, it's not going to be a game. Right?
World of Warcraft has been around for 11 years.
Yeah.
World of Warcraft has the best developers in the world working on it, and they still have problems, right? They still have issues. So it's like, and they're veterans. The people that made World of Warcraft had like 9 games under their belt already. They weren't saying, let's make a game changer of a game, but we have to get it right on the first try. It has to be profitable. And these studios, I mean, it's just money people getting into gaming. I mean, that's what it is at the end of the day.
Video games make too much money.
Yeah. Wall Street is in gaming now. Like, these guys are on the fucking NASDAQ. So, like...
Is that what a paywall is?
the paywall.
The paywall.
So, yeah, I don't know for sure, but I just think that's what it is. Because this story happens all the time. Huge investor, very rich person or entity gets into the gaming industry. It doesn't work out. This time it's only publicized because it's Netflix, right? It's a household name. So it's no big surprise to me that this didn't work out for him.
I think we've learned anything from this particular podcast. It's that those games that stand out in the AAA space are worth getting. We're talking Ragnarok and Spider-Man 2.
Totally.
Clearly great games.
Sure.
2, there are more indie games worth your time coming out every fucking week than you're aware of.
Yeah.
Don't give your money to Netflix if they're going to cancel your favorite game before it even comes out.
Yeah. So I do have one more thing to talk about.
Oh.
Sorry if you were trying to end there. But
it's mostly my bladder is the size of Netflix's budget.
I'm going to keep this super short. So we do have, I'd be remiss if I didn't bring up Halo, right?
Oh, yeah.
So 343 Studios is the headline everybody's throwing out there. That's untrue.
Yo, what?
343 Studios has been renamed. They dropped the 343 Studios. They are now Halo Studios. So they are working exclusively on Halo, which 343 already implied.
Yeah, that like
it should have been the 454 studio.
It's a rebrand so they could get those kind of clickbait headlines.
Yeah,
it worked fantastically.
should have been 117 Studios.
Yeah. The other news is
any number. Come on.
I mean, 343 Guilty Spark. It makes sense.
Okay, sure. Okay. Yeah.
So-
Spartan 117.
So they have stopped using I just said it like an hour ago.
Frostbite?
No, it's not Frostbite. It's
switched
Halo.
engines.
They did switch engines. It doesn't matter. They switched engines. They're now using Unreal 5. They're doing a massive round of hiring. It has been all but confirmed that their first endeavor in Halo 5 is actually going to be, Unreal 5 is going to be a Halo 1 remake. Like,
it's like a testing bed to see they can learn Unreal and
and to have a proof of concept before they make the next big Halo game. They understand that Halo Infinite didn't do anything that anybody wanted, and it sounds like they're going back to the drawing board with Halo. They're going to stop focusing all of their time and resources in developing an engine that Halo works on and just use an existing engine that they can build Halo into. I think that's probably a good idea. Hopefully they do add some really wonky physics. That's something like the Warthog jump video did for Halo what Halo did for the Xbox. Like it's huge. It's a big deal. fuck around with the physics. It gives the game new life. Like, dude, half the fun was launching each other in fucking warthogs and ghosts and grenade jumping and getting to places where you weren't supposed to be in Halo. That extended the life of Halo by like 2 years and fed us until Halo 2 came out. So, like, go ahead and do that. That's great.
Since Halo Studios, as they're not called,
Yeah.
listens to our podcast,
Sure.
I'm going to give you a piece of advice from an old man who knows what makes Halo great. What makes Halo great is not your Fortnite money chasing battle pass shit that your money people are pushing on you, like we had with Halo Infinite. Game ran like garbage. It had like every customization detail, which used to be a free concept in previous Halo games, was locked behind fucking FOMO stuff. No one plays Halo for that. We have Battlefield, we have Call of Duty, we have Fortnite. Like, I know you want that money. I know you want to be able to do a line of cocaine the size of
Arnold Schwarzenegger's name.
I was going to make a Halo reference, but that's fine. Yeah, lots of letters, right? People played Halo because it fundamentally changed, excuse me, how shooters on consoles worked.
Yeah.
What if we make a brilliantly gorgeous game, but combine that with extremely fun gameplay loops and an actually engaging story to an audience that previously only had GoldenEye,
Yeah.
Shadows of the Empire, Quake, and Doom, right? Like,
2 sticks? What the fuck is this?
Yeah.
Like,
What?
you do not have to reinvent the wheel like the original Halos did to still make good games, but you need to start hiring good writers and good game directors in a sense that how do we make a good Halo game and not a game that's going to use Halo as a vessel for profit?
Yes.
Like, at any time, you can stop. Like, you are allowed to stop chasing that high of Fortnite money
Yeah.
and make a good game.
Make a good Halo game,
Yeah.
and we will come.
Yeah.
Literally and figuratively. I got one more. I'm sorry. I know.
You said one more already,
I know
Brett.
this. I'm including it in. I said
I
that.
unfortunately have to pee.
Do
Thank
it to
you.
it.
Good night.
Do it to it. So, real quick aside, I talked a bunch of shit on Permafrost. Some news that kind of works into that. DayZ just came out with a new DLC called Frostline. It looks amazing. I have not played it yet, but one thing that it does is it adds cold mechanics to the base game. Now, I have been playing DayZ Namalsk for like 2-3 years now at this point. I've put like 2,600 hours into Namalsk. And that's a Permafrost map. It has all of the mechanics that Permafrost has, but it does it better. And on top of that, DayZ is a unique experience. It has the most emergent gameplay I have ever seen in my life because it is damn near MMO-like. It's got full VoIP, and it always has, and it's always worked, and it's always worked well. Including like distance, right? So like people are quieter at a distance. You even can yell, so your distance goes further, and you can whisper, so it only stays within a few feet proximity. The VoIP has always worked. On top of that, you're playing with like some of these maps have 160 people, 200 people in some cases, and it takes you 2.5 hours to cross the whole goddamn thing. So, and you're going to run into other people while doing it. Tons of emergent gameplay. If Permafrost had plans on being a multiplayer game like DayZ, I would forgive nearly all of its faults for the fact that I know there's going to be a massive amount of emergent gameplay. So, what I was looking in Permafrost was a DayZ-like experience with better base building and crafting. That would have been great. I say instead, go play Frostline. DayZ Frostline, so far, the cold mechanics have been solid. They even updated Namalsk, so it uses the base game cold mechanics and weather mechanics. And you've never had the player encounters that you're going to have in another game. DayZ is that game. It is a game that it's got its faults. The game, you run into regular bugs. But normally they're going to be those kind of endearing bugs that everybody just kind of knows and deals with because the quality of gameplay is worth it. So at the end of the day, I say go pick up DayZ, pick up Frostline, maybe play on Namalsk, or the new map, Sakal, which is looking incredible. It's huge. It's dynamic. It's got like all of the mechanics from Permafrost. So like if you're looking for if what I said earlier about like a frozen tundra permafrost environment and survival and crafting sounds good to you, just pick up DayZ.